Hey everyone, Emily Baker here with my partner Erin Simons. And Erin, we're going to have a lot of fun today talking about what's this group program and what do we cover?
I'm excited.
Yeah.
So, where are we going to start, Emily?
All right. Well, let's start off with Erin. Why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, and here's what I love about this, Emily. You and I both got into real estate many moons ago, but from various, very different experiences. So, when I got into real estate, I had no idea that I was actually going into sales. And not just any sales. I think we both agree that real estate is probably the hardest direct to consumer sales that exist. Would you agree?
Yep.
Yeah, I was 19 years old and I was introduced to someone who was flipping homes. And as any great 19-year-old does, I listened to this guy's story and I said, no problem, I can do that. And so remember, this was back in a time before all the cable TV shows. Oh, look at this. Someone's excited. So this was back before there were cable TV shows. There's no HGTV, there's no TLC, there's no Bravo, right? There's no Selling Manhattan. None of that existed. In fact, and I know you remember this, there were two shows on TV when I was growing up. It was Home Time and Bob Vila's Home Again, and they were on PBS. And imagine if you missed it, they were on Sunday mornings. You couldn't go back and watch them. You had to show up to watch them. Anyway, so I reached out to the real estate agent that this gentleman had referred me to, and off I went flipping houses. And I did that through 3 years until I graduated college. And through that experience, I was so inspired by that particular agent helping me that I decided to get my real estate license. And then off I went. And it quickly dawned on me that I had no idea what to do. I had interviewed at all the local real estate offices. I signed up for a real estate sales seminar. And at that seminar, I learned all the ins and outs of cold calling. And keep in mind, I knew nothing. So picking up the phone, okay, great, we'll do it. So not knowing any better, I got the phone book literally, and I was off to the races. And so dial after dial, call after call, nothing was happening. I had a piece of paper, it had all the words on it, but nothing was happening. Finally, some poor soul agreed to let me come over. And as with the calls, I had what to say on a piece of paper, yet, as you can imagine, it wasn't working. And so I went on appointment after appointment, nothing was happening. And so I really needed to figure it out. And so one day, out of pure luck or pity, someone said yes. And so I finally had a listing. And of course, it's overpriced, right? It wasn't selling. I had the words, yet it wasn't working. And what I want to stress is that we all have access to those conversations, to the system, to the magic pills that cause us to succeed. Yet, Emily, why are some people winning and some aren't? And I had all the tools and I wasn't winning. And so I had to go on this journey to go and figure out what to do. And so I spent 13 years studying the greatest listing agents in the business, right? Working for them, shadowing them. And guess what? I figured it out. I learned the nuance that was needed in the conversations that were being had, in the systems, in the schedule, such that I could go out and succeed at a high level, which I did. I went from not being able to take a listing to save my life to taking over 1,000 listings in just a few short years. And so the mega listing agent was developed so that you guys don't have to go on that journey and spend years and years to figure it out. We're taking our collective knowledge from all the years, all the hard work, distilling it down into what's most important so you guys can go take more listings, earn more money in a quicker amount of time. And so, Emily, you were the exact opposite. You were coming from a background of sales and you knew exactly what you were walking into, right?
Yeah. Yeah. I worked for business to business sales, selling high speed internet and websites for marketing for a company called Quest Communications. And for those of you who, we're all entrepreneurs, we're all business owners, right? And we all get sales calls, right? And think about how you respond to some of those sales calls, right? I was that person on the other end of the line. So there was a lot of nuances that I had to figure out of how can I connect with someone, right? How can I build rapport very quickly? And also, how can I get past gatekeepers, right? Because the gatekeepers, they're protected. A lot of business owners are by their assistants, right? And you can't get direct communication, by just calling. So there were a lot of nuances there, and I had hit a ceiling. And I was like, man, I love sales. I love what I'm doing. I need to figure out how I can sell something worth a lot of money. And that brought me to real estate, right? And I had no idea what I was doing. I had no idea that the years of experience that I had prior had really crafted me, and really set me up in a good realm of kind of what you were saying with expireds, FSBOs, open houses, just whatever I had to do, and win and thrive in those conversations. And yet, though the lead generation side scaled quickly, with the business side of it, it exposed us, right? It exposed what lack of systems. We didn't have systems, and so we had to build them, right, to scale, because we were servicing over 100 sellers at all times. We had over 100 listings at all times, right? And so when you have people that are setting 80 plus appointments, when you're taking, 30 to 50 listings every single month, you get exposed, right? If you don't have the systems, we don't rise to our goals, we follow our systems. So going from that background where it helped me on the, conversations and lead generation, it really caused us to quickly to elevate in those systems. And so whether you're looking for communication dialogues, if you're going, oh my gosh, 80 appointments, 50 listings, like how I just want to get one, or I want to get 10 a month, or whatever that number is for you, we give you all of the dialogues, the objection handlers, all of the knowledge that I had gained in college, learning how to talk to business owners, what questions. Those are all in the dialogue that work in real estate that's proven today.
Yeah. So let's move slides and let's talk about how we've set up this course. Now, of course, before we talk about it, as always, make sure you are abiding by TCPA, do not call. I know we're a little bit of dinosaurs. So maybe back when we started, not all of this was in place yet. We got to make sure in today's day and age, we are being respectful of TCPA and do not call. All right, moving along. So Emily, one of the things that I'm most proud of in what we've put together is that we are both very clear that there's no one way to win in real estate. And so we're not going to be teaching you guys our game. We're teaching you the game. And I think this is something really unique because what we oftentimes hear too much of is that you have to be a certain way to succeed in this business. And it's just not true, is it? I mean, when you look at lead generation, there's basically 4 ways you can go about it. There's voice to voice, and we'll get into each one in a minute. There's face to face, there's the written word, there's digital, and everyone's going to have a different comfort level on how they like to go about lead generation. When we talk about voice to voice, what would be some examples of that type of lead generation?
Calling.
Over the phone. Yeah. Over the phone.
Anything over the phone.
Yeah. Face to face.
Events, door knocking.
Yeah. Written.
Golden letters, farming, postcards.
Yep. Digital.
Email, social media.
Yeah, because too often, we might present one of the lead gen levers, like let's say one that we grew up on, which was expireds.
Yeah.
And the minute someone hears expired, the first thing they think is what?
I don't want to call.
Yes, I don't want to call. Well, join the club. Me neither anymore, right? Yet that's not the only way we can succeed with expireds. Yeah. In addition to calling TCPA do not call compliant, well, guess what? If you prefer to be face-to-face, what does a door knocking strategy with expireds look like? If you prefer to do marketing via written word, what does a letter or a postcard campaign look like to an expired? And of course, if you're a social media whiz or digital, what does it look like to go after them on social media? Mm-hmm. So no matter which way you like to communicate, we're giving you that option with each of the different levers that we're going to present on lead generation, which to me, I don't know that there's anyone else out there doing it that way. Would you agree?
Yeah, I completely agree. I mean, typically you get a dialogue, right? Words previously known as scripts, right? And
Yeah.
you get that, the words on the paper, and they say call, right? And so many times, as coaches too, right? Yes, we've lived this. Yes, we live it today. And as coaches, we both coach one-on-one. And one of my favorite things is when someone says, I absolutely will not do this. I love that. Great. You don't have to do it, right? We give you the top 15 lead generation listing levers and we break it down in each one. So, whatever that is for you of what you're willing to do, right? And what gives you energy. Again, there are 15 of them. You guys only need 3 to 5 sources, and really 3 that you're really pulling the levers on hard, right? And yet you get to choose. And man, if somebody would have given, I think you agree, Aaron, like if somebody would have given us that early on, we would have got way further faster.
If I would have known that I could have either, and maybe I did, but if I could have just gone and door knocked those expired, or maybe dropped letters in the mail and I could have had success that way, I'm not sure I would have grinded out those calls year after year. And maybe I didn't need to go on that journey. But that's the whole point of you guys being here, is we want to save that time. And so, Emily, you and I both coach one-on-one. When we introduce our clients, or our clients choose to take one of these new Legion levers and they implement it inside of their business, even those that have come through this course, which we've had many of them, give us success stories. On average, just if they did nothing else, but they just picked a new Legion lever, whichever way they like to communicate, and they went and ran with that system, on average, what are you seeing that add to their listings taken or listings sold on a monthly basis?
Oh, at least about a 15% increase. I mean,
You
that's
hold on. You just told me a story. One of the things we talk about on Legion is mega open houses, and you just told me a story about a client that basically implemented the mega open house strategy. And just from that one open house that she just did this past weekend,
yeah, Saturday.
she set how many listing appointments?
She set 3 listing appointments, 7 total. 7
So,
appointments total.
so she set 3 listing appointments, and let's say she takes one of those,
Mhm.
and she only does the mega one once a month, let alone every weekend. What's her average sales price?
Her average commission is 10 grand. Just
10
to make,
grand.
yeah.
10 grand. So again, there is no standard commission. It's always negotiable. Let's though say for fun, it was 3%,
Mhm.
right? So 10 grand is her average commission, right?
Yep.
Over the course of a year, that's $120,000 of extra GCI, correct?
Yep.
Just based off this one module. And yet we're going to go through 5 of them, correct?
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's lead gen. What's the next one?
Yeah, let's get into the next one. So the next one, Aaron, is we go through the full pre-qualification process. This is a model. I think that one of the things that has been said a lot and probably overused is it's a skill set market, right? We're in a skill-based market. We went from a speed-based market to a skill-based market, right? And a lot of our markets are shifting. And yet, one of the things that we've seen industry-wide, especially as coaches, is we see that the held to signed on listings has dropped in conversion. And one of our first and favorite ways to inspect that is the pre-qualification process, right? Because when we're having conversations and we're understanding what do we need to know before we walk into a listing appointment such that we're set up for success and confident that we can overcome. Like we already know what the objection is going to be, right? We isolated that on the call such that it sets us up for success with conversion, right? We get the information. And then if we go to the next slide really quick.
Hold on a minute though. Going back to pre-qualification, right? We teach, if we can go back to pre-qual, we teach that a successful listing appointment is a function of a strong pre-qualification.
That's right.
And to your point, as we've seen the ratio for held to sign starting to go down, like you said, we bring it right back to pre-qualification. And the minute that we start getting our clients asking the right questions up front, such that they know the objections ahead of time and they know what to present to, that then gets them back from that, 50% conversion rate back to that 70, 80%, which is where they want to be. And so from a value standpoint, if we're now taking more listings as a result of us qualifying stronger, how much more money is that on a monthly or yearly basis just by doing this one thing alone?
It's big. And that's where, let's now go to the next slide. The pre-list process though is very much, they're congruent, right? So you pre-qual them and then you follow our pre-list process, which is the package, the appointment preparation, the listing file. It's getting everything ready and prepared and really differentiating yourself against your competition. Because can we all agree that the competition is fierce right now, that people are interviewing multiple agents? Yes. Okay. Yeah. And we're seeing that too. And so how do we differentiate ourselves and really set us up for success, that they view us as the professional and we've exceeded their communication standards or expectations before we even get there?
Yeah. So going back to conversion, right? If we're increasing our conversion, right, by 10 or 15 or even 20 points as a result of being able to differentiate ourselves from the competition. Mm-hmm. If that's one extra listing a month, right, 5 extra a year, whatever that is, that's a lot of money just from one simple process that you work on.
That's right.
Yeah. This, by the way, the pre-list process went out the window when the market went crazy and everyone was just in a rush to get there. Well, we're coming back to that market, to your point, where we're getting back to more of a traditional rhythm, that this is becoming of uber importance, especially as we see days on market going up, competition's going up, right? Who they hire matters. This is how we differentiate ourselves.
Right.
Next slide.
Yeah, let's go to the next slide. All right. And then it brings us to the appointment. So we get asked this a lot, right? What's your consultation? What do you give the sellers? What are you reviewing? What do you go over? What's your dialogue? And, what are your top objection handlers for the top 5, objections that we commonly get as listing agents? The close, that's another big one. Closing, going in prepared to close for them to make a decision, and being confident and comfortable in your close, right? So you don't have to say sign here, right? Like we set it up in a framework of really getting them to already decide without deciding. So for example, okay, so we hit the market on Thursdays, looking at the calendar that I've got, what Thursday would be best for you to start showings, right? What, just that kind of stuff, right? We're putting it out there.
Yeah, you know what? We get to work with top list agents across the country. And the one thing that we noticed is that they were leaving too soon. All of a sudden, we got into this, I'll call it an epidemic, where listing agents were going on listing appointments, presenting and leaving, and then crossing their fingers because they had a great connection. And then shocked when it got poached by another agent. And so the reason why they were showing up, presenting, and leaving is they didn't have clarity around exactly how to do exactly what you did. How do you put those assumptive closes, right? Those statements, into that second half of the presentation or even the beginning of the presentation, such that by the time you get to the end of it, they are asking to move forward and work with you. How do you do it that way? How do you structure it, right? So if all we did was just work on that one piece, where we're now, as a result of learning how to add those assumptive closes, learning that closing is a process. It's not a statement, right? Closing is not sign the contract, right? Closing is a systematic process throughout the presentation that's leading them to a natural conclusion. If we just started to work on that alone and nothing else, that right there would increase conversion and increase dollars in your pockets. Would you agree?
Yes.
Right? What now again, we will give the value proposition its own time out in the sun. We will go in depth on what that needs to look like, on how to price in a rapidly changing market, on how to really get clear on their needs, not just the surface level of they're moving to Chicago, but going 3 deep on what that move allows them to do. So it's not that they're moving to Chicago, it's that they're getting to spend more time with their family, right? Which is what they want, because that's more powerful than the move. Yeah. And so as we break it down, you become stronger and stronger, and the conversion continues to go up. We could spend 9 weeks just on the appointment, let alone the lead gen, the pre-qual, the pre-list. But trust me, we get into detail on each one of these points. And on any of them, if you just implement a fraction of it, it's going to cause a difference in your business. Would you agree?
Oh, 1,000%. The consultation, y'all, what I will tell you on the consultation is when you take the Mega Listing Agent and we go through the consultation, just that alone of the impact that we've seen with people implementing that flow and that framework, it really does put you in control as the economist of choice and the expert in your local market, versus sometimes it can feel as though the sellers want to dominate, right? Or the sellers are really stubborn on, do you have a buyer, or what's the price, or I'm interviewing, will you cut your rate, whatever it is. And so when you implement the framework that we go through, that for clients that I have, for people who have shared successes of just that one thing, I can't tell you enough how much the consultation is everything, right? Because unless we have a signed listing agreement, there is no closing, right?
You don't get a check for second place.
Yeah. So.
All right. And what's the fifth and final module?
Yeah. Listing management.
Making a comeback.
Yep. It's key right now.
It's key because we actually now have to manage listings as days on market's going up, as inventory's going up. This is a big one, right? Yeah. And so we now have to get back to, what does our communication plan look like? What does a marketing plan look like as it's being implemented? Price adjustments, price reductions, whatever you want to call it. How do you turn that into a scientific formula so it happens automatically, not because you think it needs to or maybe it needs to? Contract to close systems, and then of course, right, making sure we're wrapping a bow and putting a cherry on top with the reviews and the referrals.
Yeah, that's right. And you know what I think is really interesting about this is, Aaron, you're in California, so you're in a very volume-based market, right? You have a very high average sales price. I would say it's a volume-driven market. Is that fair to say?
Correct.
Okay. I'm in Missouri. Our average sales price is $250,000. Okay. So, I'm a very, closing driven, unit driven market. Right. And so what I think is really great about listing management and just it being prevalent all over the country right now. But what I think is really great is that you're going to get 2 different perspectives. And you're going to get it from the volume driven to the unit driven, if you will. And I think that right now is so key, just to have clarity on how whoever your ideal client is or the problem or what market that you're in. I think that's really, really prevalent.
Yeah. We're here all the time, but my market, listen, you can't pull that with Emily and I, because I promise you, whichever one you say you are, we're in that. We're in that. All right, next slide. So there's a cost of not taking action. Now, before we talk about that specifically, what you have to understand is that everyone on here or listening to this might be in a little bit different of a situation. So Emily, there are some people who come to us because they're working with too many buyers and they want to bring balance back to their business with listings. There are people out there that come to us because they have too many listings and they don't have systems in place to service it or to get them sold. We have people who come to us because their business is running them, they're not running their business, and they want their time back. They want their life back. We've got people who don't know where to find more listings, right? They're coming to us because they want to have this problem of, I have listings not selling. Where do I actually find these listings? We've got people that are going on appointments, not getting them signed, right? They're new to the business. They don't think sellers trust them, right? You were 22, I was 23 when we got into this business. Yeah, we had to overcome that. We had to figure it out. Some people are just looking to polish up their value proposition. Or lastly, some people just want to reset. They want to go back to the fundamentals. And so whichever one you might be, or all of the above, I'm glad you were here today. I'm glad you were listening. I'm glad you listened to our other promos. Yet what we don't want this to be is good information that you heard, and then you go back to your business and don't do anything about it. It's like the agent that goes to the seminar that gets the workbook and they go home and they put it on their bookshelf. And now they have a really smart bookshelf, but nothing changed in their life. Nothing changed in their business. And so the cost of not taking action is falling into that trap of hearing great stuff, not doing anything about it, right? What we know is that it's a very small investment to get a very outsized return, regardless of whether it's the lead generation, whether it's the pre-list, whether it's the pre-appointment, the actual appointment, or the management piece of it. Just taking one of those and implementing will give you an outsized return on the investment, which is why we're all here. So don't fall into the trap of, this was great, let me get back to my life. Take action so you can make a difference. So you can earn more money, take more listings, or get your time back, get more organization, right? Bring the level of chaos down. So here it is.
Yeah, I agree, Aaron. I think that, we're in the market where we've got a list to last. And we launch next Wednesday. And so every Wednesday for 9 weeks, we come together at 1:30. 1:30 is our time, Central, and we go through this systematically over 9 weeks. We start with a lead gen, we go in the framework we just rolled out today, in that order. And so all of the calls are recorded. You have access to the recordings for 60 days post the last session, which the last session I believe is the end of October. So essentially you'll have access to it into the first start of the year. So you'll have the workbooks, you'll have the systems, spreadsheets that we give you access to, and then you'll have the community. We have over 1,000.
You get us
Yeah.
for 9 weeks and then some.
That's right. So sign up for the Mega Listing Agent. It's $500. Oh, again, people are excited.
All I heard was the hey girl. Great.
Yeah. So it's $250, 2 installments. And again, you take one listing, it's above a 4-to-1 return on investment, which Gary says we make. So we trust that this was helpful. We're looking forward to seeing you all and your faces next Wednesday.
See you, everybody.